Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really modern way of teaching language, specifically the IB Middle Years program's strategy for French. And as you'll see, it's about way more than just learning a few phrases.
So let's just start with a really basic question. What's the actual point of learning a new language? Is it really just about being able to order a croissant in Paris, or is there something, a little deeper going on? For a long time, the answer was pretty simple. I think a lot of us remember language class looking like that column on the left, right? Just endless verb charts, repeating phrases over and over, all in the name of perfect grammar and eventually fluency. But the MYP way, over on the right, it completely reframes the goal. It's about using language to explore huge global issues, to understand your own culture better, and to build up your critical thinking skills. The prize here isn't just fluency, it's about building a completely new perspective on the world.
But here's what's really fascinating. The MYP framework doesn't see these as two separate goals. It basically asks, hey, why not both? How can you build up your language skills while also building a new worldview at the exact same time? Okay, so let's dive into exactly how they pull this off.
First up, let's talk about the why. The entire MYP strategy is built on this very specific philosophy about the kind of person it wants to help create. And it all starts with something called the IB learner profile.
Now, just look at the words on this slide for a second. This is so interesting. It doesn't say anything about memorization. It talks about analysis, responsible action, and making reasoned decisions. This right here is the bedrock. The goal is to build thinkers, not just speakers.
Okay, so that's a pretty big philosophical goal. How in the world do you translate that into what a student actually does in French class every day? Well, you build it right into the textbook activities themselves. Get this. Instead of just giving students the rule for masculine and feminine nouns, the textbook prompts them to become little language detectives and figure it out for themselves. It asks them to observe, to hunt for a pattern, and to discover the rule. I mean, this is such a brilliant illustration of the core idea. It's not about being spoon-fed the answer. It's about developing the skills to find it yourself. So that's the why. Now let's move on to section 2, the how. If the why is all about building thinkers, the how is about organizing the learning around big, meaningful ideas, instead of just, isolated grammar units. The curriculum uses what it calls key concepts. So an entire unit might be framed around the giant idea of communication or maybe identity. What this does is it gives every vocabulary word, every grammar rule, a larger, more meaningful context to live in.
And they explore these big concepts through this really smart 3-question framework. It all starts with the factual. Okay, what's the vocabulary and grammar I need? Then it moves up to the conceptual. How does this connect to a bigger idea, like culture? And finally, it gets to the debatable. What are the complex real-world questions here? It's like a ladder that pushes students from just knowing things to really deeply understanding them.
So we have the why, we have the how. Now for the what. How does this all actually look on the page for a student on a random Tuesday morning?
Well, learning doesn't start with a grammar chart. It starts with real, authentic communication. In this case, students are reading a simple, totally relatable dialogue. It's the first day of school. A teacher and some new students are just introducing themselves. And the very next step isn't about grammar. It's about comprehension. These questions you see here, they force students to engage with the text for its meaning first. Who are these people? What are they saying to each other? How are they feeling? They have to get the context before they can start breaking down the mechanics. And it's only after students have engaged with the language in a real-world context that the grammar itself is finally taught. And this is so crucial. The grammar is there to serve the communication, not the other way around. So when the textbook finally shows the verb charts for être, to be, and avoir, to have, it's not the first time students have seen them. Nope, they've already seen them in action in that conversation they just read. So the chart isn't some abstract rule they have to memorize. It's a tool to help them understand the conversation they were just a part of. This approach then goes even further because it's always trying to explicitly link the language students are learning with a much broader understanding of culture and global awareness. There's this one simple but really powerful question that appears again and again throughout the textbook. Et dans ta culture. It just means, and in your culture. And this little prompt is like a doorway to something bigger. It asks students to turn the lens back on themselves. How do you greet people? What do you eat for breakfast? It makes them an active participant, comparing their own life to the cultures they're studying. This completely transforms language learning from just a passive activity into an active self-reflection and connection.
And the bigger goal here is to create truly global citizens. It's a constant reminder that French isn't just a language spoken in France. It's a global language, the official language in 29 different countries, and every single one has its own unique and amazing culture.
And finally, that brings us to the last and maybe the most important piece of the whole puzzle, putting all of this learning into action. The capstone of every single unit is a section called passer à l'action, which literally means move to action. It's the step that builds a bridge between the classroom and the real world, because knowledge isn't meant to just sit in a notebook. Students are challenged to take what they've learned and actually do something with it. So they might organize an assembly about a topic they've studied or create a video to promote a local cause. They're using their new language skills to make a real, tangible impact on their own community. And this brings us right back to where we started, full circle. The entire strategy, from discovering grammar rules for yourself to exploring huge global concepts, all the way to taking real-world action, is designed to fulfill this ultimate goal from the IB Learner profile, to create students who learn with genuine enthusiasm and who can sustain that love of learning for their entire lives. So it kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If this approach can turn a language class into a platform for critical thinking, cultural connection, and real-world action, what could a similar philosophy unlock in math or in history or in science? What happens when learning is no longer just about knowing, but about connecting and doing?